Welcome to Insights from the Couch, where real conversations meet real life at midlife.
We're Colette and Laura, two therapists and best friends, walking through the journey right alongside you. Whether you're feeling stuck, restless, or just unsure of what's next, this is a space for honest conversations, messy truths, and meaningful change.
And our Midlife Masterclass is now open. If you're looking to level up, get into action, and make midlife the best season yet, go to insightsfromthecouch.org and join our waitlist. Now let's dive in. So let's dive right into this episode on GLP-1s, everything you need to know about taking them at midlife. We've got nurse practitioner Amy Wrenn here with us today. We're so excited. We're going to get into it all, destigmatize, demystify, and give you all the info you need to know to make decisions that are right for you. Amy, welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, we're so excited to talk about this with you. And maybe you could start out by just tell us a little bit about yourself for our listeners.
Sure. So I am a nurse practitioner. I've been in the medical field for over 20 years. I started out my career in obstetrics and gynecology, and I now am in the integrative med space. I specialize in health optimization. So that looks like anything from weight loss to hormones to peptides, anything we can do to make you be the healthiest version of you is what I specialize in.
Oh, I love
That's
that.
so cool. I love that.
Yeah. And are you available online or only in office?
So actually, this past year, I haven't been seeing patients. I've taken a little detour, and I am now consulting, doing education and training for practitioners, because there is a huge gap, which I'm sure you guys know, in what patients want, what they need, and what providers understand and know. So especially in the perimenopause, menopause space, even in the weight loss space, providers are just not taught this in medical school. And so I am trying to bridge that gap and be a resource for providers who want to do right by their patients and give them updated, safe medications and treatments. So I'm really finding that to be super fulfilling. And it doesn't mean that I won't be back at the bedside at some point, but just for the last year, I've been doing this and I'm loving it.
That's wonderful. It's
That
so
is so
needed.
cool.
It's
Yeah.
so needed.
Yes.
Yeah. As you know. All right. So let's dive in and talk about GLP-1s. Can you start out by telling us what they are? Like, let's say a woman's only heard about it from her friends or through the grapevine. What are these drugs and how do they work in the body?
Okay. So if you're listening right now, when we say GLP-1s, we're talking about those shots, those diet shots. So if you've heard of Ozempic or Wegovy, Zepbound, Mounjaro, that is what we're talking about, these weight loss injections. And a GLP-1 stands for glucagon-like peptide 1 receptor agonist. That's the long scientific version of that. And actually, we produce GLP-1s in our bodies. All of us produce GLP-1s in our bodies. And they have created this medication to mimic that. So it's the same thing that we already have in our bodies. And you may
I
say,
did not know that. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I've been on Zepbound for a year, and this is the first I've heard of that. So already I've learned something. Yeah, go on.
So you think, well, why, if we already are making it, why do we need it? Well, in life, if we have metabolic dysfunction, and metabolic dysfunction can look like insulin resistance, PCOS, type 2 diabetes. It really hits women in perimenopause and menopause, because once we're not making as much estrogen, we can become insulin resistant. So people who have maybe never had an issue with their weight, all of the sudden are like, I don't understand what's happening to me. I haven't changed my diet. I haven't changed my exercise. I'm gaining weight. What is wrong? And it's because our brains aren't getting the message from the gut. So the gut creates this peptide, this GLP-1, sends the message to the brain. And think of it like a text message. Like your gut is sending a text message to the brain, but the brain needs glasses and the text is so small, it can't see it. Then you get this exogenous. Exogenous means from outside the body. So endogenous is what your body creates. Exogenous is something that we bring in, and you give yourself a shot of this. Now that text message is blown up big, brain has glasses, and it's like, oh, says we're full, says we're full, and it says we're going to do this with the sugar and we're going to do this with our fat. And so it's a tool that we have in our toolbox to help patients lose weight, to help get that message to the brain that they weren't receiving. And I've told a lot of patients that it's the equivalent of, have you tried unplugging it and plugging it back in? It just kind of resets everything in the body.
Can we double click on the piece where you say, when we go into perimenopause, our estrogen is reducing and all of a sudden our brain isn't getting the signal. Is the weight gain because we're not getting the signal and we're overeating? I mean, are we changing anything, or is it literally like systems in the body are dealing with the same amount of food, but they're dealing with it differently?
They're dealing with it differently. And yes,
Okay.
you can overeat, but it's dealing with it differently because the insulin is a hormone, and the body is not responding to it anymore. And that is called insulin resistance.
Yeah.
And that truly can happen at any age, but you can take a person who's never had that, and once they enter perimenopause or menopause, then they will most likely get that.
Oh my gosh, Amy, exactly what you're saying. You guys, I just talked to a good friend who was like, I saw her for the first time in a while, and she said, oh my God, I am going out of my mind. I have put on 25 pounds. She's about 54, 55 years old. She's been naturally thin her whole life. Like, she's never had eating issues. She's never had to think about eating. She's just one of those people who genetically has been relatively thin and not had to focus on it. She said, I've gone through all of these hoops where I've dieted, counted calories, increased my exercise to 5 to 6 times a week. She said, nothing is making me get the weight off. And she said, and I'm not even overeating or eating any differently.
Mm-hmm.
And she's thinking about GLP-1s, something she said, I'm really afraid. And I tried to give her some reassurance. I mean, my experience has been mostly very positive. But she said, it's unbelievable how nothing's changed. And I have never had a weight problem my entire life. So it sounds like something like what you're describing is probably
Yes.
what's happening for her.
She sounds like the poster child for this. I've had so many patients come to me and they have tried everything. And that's where I get very protective of these patients when I hear people out in the community that have bias against the medication, because these aren't lazy people. They're not lazy people. These are people who have tried counting calories, counting macros, eliminating certain foods, doing keto, cardio all day and night, and nothing is changing. They're going out of their minds, and they're so discouraged. And so, and a lot of them have been to a primary care who just says, hey, why don't you eat less and move more? Have you tried that? And
do you know what my primary care told me to do like 5 years ago? To get MyFitnessPal. I was like, I've had it for 15 years.
Thanks.
Yeah.
And Weight Watchers.
Yeah. And I can only speak, of course, to my personal experience, but I have had weight fluctuations throughout my whole life. So this is not unique for me to this phase of life. But what I've experienced firsthand being on these drugs, first of all, I'm not somebody who has no appetite, even now on GLP-1s. Like, I'm still hungry. Like, it's not, I still have to be intentional about what I eat. It's not just been this magic bullet for me, like you hear out there, oh, you have no appetite. That's not my experience. But what is my experience is that my brain is getting that message at a reasonable place. I'm no longer thinking about food. This for me has helped so much, and it doesn't feel like a crutch in any way. And the idea that people taking this drug are lazy is so ridiculous that if anyone has that viewpoint, like, you just don't have some of these struggles, then good for you. But like, that makes me infuriated to even think that anyone could hold that view.
Yeah, it drives me crazy too. And everything that you were just explaining about yourself, that your brain was not getting the hormone signaling.
Right.
You would eat
Right.
and then later you were hungry, so you didn't have satiety. So
Exactly.
there's a lot of hormones that go with that, leptin,
Like the
ghrelin,
leptin and ghrelin.
insulin.
Yeah.
Yes. And so this helps, like I said, it's like unplugging it and plugging it back in. It just kind of resets all that. It
Right.
improves signaling to your brain, which, that's such a disadvantage for people that metabolically have that issue.
Right.
Yes, we should be offering them something if we have it to help with that, because it doesn't just help with weight loss. It helps with inflammation, which is huge. It helps with things like PCOS. They've done more studies now. It helps with cardiovascular disease, cognitive impairment, fatty liver. It helps with kidneys, and it helps with addiction as well. So
Yeah,
there
I've
are
heard
a
that.
plethora of disease processes that this medication is proving to be beneficial for.
I used to hear about these drugs, and it would be like Ozempic was the first one, the big hallmark one. And then that was for people who were diabetic. And then they came out with like Zepbound and Wegovy, and that was more for weight loss.
Mhm.
Now I'm hearing everybody literally talk about wanting to be on some sort of peptide. I don't,
Mhm.
the latest one is retatrutide. Have you heard of this one?
Yes, retatrutide is not FDA approved yet, and it's still in the study phase of it.
Okay. But what I'm getting at is like, I feel like it's now being mass marketed for kind of all people. And I'm just wondering where you fall down on, like, is everybody in the future going to be on some form of a GLP-1?
So no, because not everybody is a candidate for it, and not everybody
Not
will
everyone needs
need
it.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
But
not
do people
everybody.
want to use it regardless, I guess is
Yeah,
where I'm
I have
going.
turned away patients. I have had more than one 104-pound patient walk through my door and want to be on this medication who I have turned away. And it was very interesting. That particular instance was because all of her friends were doing it. So she wanted to do it as well. This, at the end of the day, this is a medication and it needs to be prescribed by a medical provider. So this
Yes.
is something I definitely wanted to address. And since we're already kind of here, um, social media right now is insane. And there's a lot of TikTok influencers who are promoting these medications, and follow my link and use my code, and
Oof.
you can purchase this.
Yep. I see it
Do
all the time
not,
on my feed
yes,
too.
do not get this medication from a link from an influencer. That medication they have was not made in a pharmacy. It was made in a lab. It will say on the bottle, not for human use, research chemicals. And I know people who are injecting themselves with this stuff. So
Oh,
that is my just big warning. Please don't fall into a social media rabbit hole. You need to find a provider who
yeah.
specializes in this to prescribe it for you.
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
That is chilling to know that that's what's going on. I see those links all the time. And obviously, I'm on prescription Zepbound. I know a
Mhm.
lot of people use compound drugs. So let me ask you about that. What I hear anecdotally from some people, I've heard from some people, oh, I'm doing great on the compound drug. I microdose. There are a lot of people going to these medi clinics where they're giving them a
Mhm.
whole bunch of stuff, including some kind of GLP-1
Mhm.
compound, and charging a fortune. I hear from other people, oh, I was on Zepbound and now I'm doing the compound because it got too expensive and I'm having more side effects. What's your thought on the compound versus the prescription route?
The compound will depend on the pharmacy, the quality of your medication. I use compounded pharmacies. I have some that are fantastic. There are some that I would never use. So your provider will hopefully, if they're going to use compounded medications, have a good quality compound. Now, Ozempic is semaglutide. If you go to a compounding pharmacy, you're not getting the name brand. So Ozempic is like the name brand Kleenex or Band-Aid.
Right.
It is just a brand name. Those medications, when you get it, that is typically needs to be through your insurance. Not everybody will be approved through insurance, and insurance is a whole nother podcast. But because people have a hard time getting approved, these medications.
Yeah, I couldn't
are
get
very
approved, and
expensive.
I had an obesity weight, and I'm on Zepbound, which is not for diabetes. So
Mhm.
I met the prescribing criteria in my insurance,
Right.
and I have good insurance, and they did not approve it.
Right. And so Zepbound and Mounjaro, those are the same medications. Those are trizipatide. And one under a brand name has been approved for diabetes, and one under a brand name has been approved for weight loss. It's the same medication. It's just an
Marketing.
insurance, FDA. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So you can get compounded, but the difference between like following a TikTok person to their link, those are made in a lab. If you get compounded, that's still a pharmacy. They have to follow the State Board of Pharmacy. They get inspections. They have a sterile license. Those are still safe.
Good.
The other big difference is that when you get the commercial brand, it will come in a pen and you
Yes.
just inject it and it's one dose. When you get it from a compounding pharmacy, it comes in a vial and it's a multi-dose vial. So you can draw up, they can switch up how much you're taking at a time. So you have a little bit more leeway in
Yes,
titrating the
microdosing.
medication.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And so then Wegovy and Ozempic are the same, right? They're the same drug.
Yes.
One
Semaglutide.
is for weight loss and one is for diabetes.
Diabetes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then same thing with Mounjaro and Zepbound.
Yes.
So it's really key. What I'm getting from this is to get it from a medical professional to
Mhm.
make sure that the medication is indicated for you, because there are a lot of people, especially women with disordered eating patterns. God knows it's drilled into us from society. You know, my BMI was not normal. I am just now a year into the drug where I have a normal BMI, and I'm still on the high end of a normal BMI for my age. And I know BMI isn't everything, but you know, if you're 104 pounds, you probably don't need to be taking a diet shot.
No, you
Maybe
don't.
that's another issue going on there. Right.
For
Right.
sure.
Where is the prescribe? Like, and when you do an intake of a new patient, what is, because a lot of women, I mean, I've even hit a plateau where it's, you know, I've been kind of the same weight for a long time, but I can feel that it's harder to lose weight.
But
Where's
you're not
that
overweight. Are you trying to lose weight?
I mean, I'm not trying to lose weight, but I can just see that it's getting a little harder to maintain my weight.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I'm just wondering, where is the line? That line between somebody who wants to lose 20 pounds or it just feels like it's harder to lose weight, where you send somebody away or you bring somebody in.
So there is a BMI requirement for if you're going to get it commercially, and they lower that BMI to 27 if you have comorbidities. So if you have like insulin resistance or you're pre-diabetic,
Got it.
if you use the compounded method where somebody is paying out of pocket and you don't have to go through insurance, you can get away from some of those constraints. What I did personally, I was very fortunate and I had an in-body scale because I'm not a fan of BMI because it really doesn't tell us.
Yeah.
Yeah, really doesn't tell us. It only tells us your height and your weight, but it doesn't tell me how much fat you have. And there really is skinny fat. That is a real thing where they look thin, and then when you put them on that scale, they have no muscle. The majority of their weight is fat, and that is
might
a
be me.
mistake.
That might be me, even still. I'm going to change it, but I think I'm almost skinny fat.
so yeah, so I being somebody who was very fortunate and smaller my whole life until I hit 40, and then I hit that where I started gaining weight and had zero coping skills, and I did not take the shot at the time, but because I had that struggle, I had a lot of sympathy for the skinny fat girls too, which a lot of people don't have sympathy for those girls, but those women are at risk for having bones break when they're older in life.
Yep.
So their bone density is a real problem too. So I personally would treat those patients who had 20 pounds because 20 pounds is 20 pounds. That's not
It's a big
nothing.
difference. I
Yeah,
agree.
and so that is going to be something that's a little bit more particular to the provider that you're seeing. It really just depends, but I do feel like there is a place for those patients as well. Because at the end of the day, we're not trying to get skinny, we're trying to get healthy.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that is huge. And if you do have 20 extra pounds of fat, that is really contributing to inflammation. And at the end of the day, inflammation can be a precursor to cancer. So
Yes.
we want to be the healthiest versions of ourselves.
I'm so glad you made that distinction too, that we're really trying to get healthy. I mean, I'm not saying there's no vanity in it. For me, it affected my mental health. It doesn't feel
Mhm.
good to not feel at your best or to have your clothes fit or to never like a picture of yourself. I mean, there's an element of that psychologically, but that is really my biggest motivation is I want to feel good and be healthy in mind and body. I've lost 30 pounds over a year. And for me, it was very slow. I never lost more than 1.5 pounds in a week the entire time. I've
That's
been,
good though.
yeah, I've been at a plateau for a while now, but regardless, it's just been 30 pounds down. It's life changing. So
Mhm.
I think it's really a positive from that front. It's not just about how you look in the mirror.
I can tell you, I would do baseline labs with my patients because they were coming in for all over health. And so I would look at everything. And when we would start this medication and I would do some follow up labs a few months later, I was floored, especially when I first broke into this. Cholesterol levels were better. Obviously, blood sugar was better. People were coming off their blood pressure medications. Fasting insulin was better. The inflammation markers were better. Sometimes even thyroid was better. It
Yeah.
really blew my mind.
It's really amazing. So let's talk about a little because it sounds like so many great benefits, but talk to us a little bit about side effects,
Mhm.
horror stories. Like so many people are afraid. What's the real deal with what people can expect for side effects that are typical? How scared do people need to be? That kind of stuff.
So, my advice to providers is that we really need to go low and go slow because
Hmm.
the side effects can be intense. The number one side effect is nausea. And I cannot figure out why some people get nausea and some people don't, but most people get at least a little bit in the beginning. Every once in a while, you'll have somebody who is very symptomatic and they are vomiting with it. So we really want to start low and slow on it. So nausea is the number one. Number two, I would say, is constipation because it slows gastric emptying. It slows down how fast you move that food from your stomach
Mm.
down into your bowels. And so that can just slow everything down on its way out as well. Occasionally, some people will have diarrhea with it, but most of my patients had constipation with it. Another key piece of information is when you are first starting this medication, and this may be 2 weeks, this may last up to 6 weeks, but low energy initially. And that is because your body is used to running on sugar for fuel. And we are taking its fuel source away. We are really deplenishing the amount of sugar that your body gets. So your body's just like, are you kidding me? You want me
Yeah.
to what? You want me to work? You want me to walk? I'm so tired. I don't have my energy. What are you doing with it? But eventually the body's like, wait a minute. I'm going to use this fat for fuel instead of that. Okay, I'm going to use the fat for fuel. And fat is a more efficient energy source. So you go from having no energy to having more energy than you used to have. I don't feel like enough providers warn their patients about the energy slump in the beginning. So if you're going to start this, be prepared for that. And you can supplement with like B vitamins to help kind of mitigate that energy deficit there. Another big important thing. So I've had patients who were doing keto and they loved keto and they wanted to stay on keto. That is okay. But fat bombs are not okay. So
Wait, what?
in
What?
the keto world,
Yeah, I don't know what
they
this
will
is.
eat they will make fat bombs, and
Like a butter coffee or something?
yes, they
Oh,
will high fat, and they feel like that helps them get into ketosis. Do not do that on this medication. Your body is going to be burning the fat from your body. If you are
mhm.
putting extra fat into your system, your gallbladder is not going to have a nice time, and
Yeah,
you
and you
may
can
end up
get
in the
sick from
hospital.
that.
Yeah.
The times I've gotten sick have been when I ate like higher fat food
Yeah.
than I'm normally accustomed to, and I just
Mhm.
couldn't digest it, or it just made me really sick. It's not
Yeah.
happened often, but
But
doesn't feel good. Yeah.
yeah, I had a patient learn that the hard way, and I didn't know she was intentionally eating high fat. So you
Mhm.
want to prioritize protein while you're on this medication because
Yeah.
we want to support our muscles, and that is very, very important. So prioritizing protein, I have even heard anecdotally that it helps with some of the nausea with that.
Hmm.
Other
Mm.
side effects that are kind of positive are people are I don't drink as much. I used to want a glass of wine every night,
I
and
hear this
now
too.
I don't need the glass of wine. I'm not craving ice cream after my dinner. I'm not so it works on the hypothalamus in the brain, and it works on cravings. So vaping, smoking, alcohol, all of those things, not everybody, but most people tend to not need those things anymore because it affects that reward part of your brain.
That's
Yeah. Which is so
fascinating.
nice. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I have had a couple patients. I've had 2 clients who have lost their gallbladder to this process. I know
Mhm.
there's like, I don't know what
Lost their
this,
gallbladder?
yeah, they had to have their gallbladder out.
Two clients lost their gallbladder because of
Yeah.
taking a GLP-1?
Yes.
This is another reason why you really need to be with a good provider who's going to talk to you about nutrition. I tell my patients, you're not going to just take this shot, sit on the couch, and eat nothing but saltines because you're not very hungry. You have to be
Yeah.
mindful still about moving your body, and you have to be mindful about the things that you eat. Really need to focus on eating for nutrition. So if we can avoid, now I'm not saying not to not ever have treats or fun things, but if most of your nutrition can come from whole foods, so nothing out of a box, a bag, or a can, that is what's going to nourish your body. And that's what we need to focus on. Because if you want to come off this medication one day, we need to build the habits now while you're on it, while you have this tool so that we can maintain the results later.
Yes, I've heard it be called renting your results. And it's like that's a good way of putting it.
I don't see it that way personally, but
I mean,
talk
that's the way they talk about it sometimes, that you don't want to rent your results. You want
right.
to
You
build
want to
that,
buy them
you want to
and
buy them or
invest in them.
invest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Invest is
Yeah.
the word. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. So wait, let's talk about that getting off of them because I kind of have, to Laura's point, even though I'm saying I don't see it that way, I kind of have in my mind, I guess I feel like I've bought my results, but that it's like a lifetime thing. I am terrified of the idea of ever going off this drug.
Okay, you don't have to come off of it. So I want
Okay.
to say that first. You don't have to come off of it. But some people need it for a lifetime and
Yeah.
some people don't.
Okay.
And
Okay.
so if
That makes
it's
sense.
yes, if you're looking at 20 pounds, that is probably going to be a shorter term. And that might look like anything from 6 months to even 18 months. And then I like to taper my patients off. We don't just pull the plug. And I really handhold during that time because I want them to maintain the habits that they've built. If they stopped drinking a glass of wine every night, if they stopped having ice cream after dinner, if they stopped having a snack at 3 p.m., you have to maintain that afterwards. You have to
Right.
maintain that when the food noise comes back because the food noise will come back if you
Right.
had food noise before. So you've flexed and built this muscle while on the medication, and now you have to maintain that off. And I've always given my patients, I have them give me a red flag number. And that number needs to be more than 5 pounds, less than 10 pounds. I'd like them to keep track of their weights at home. They don't have to weigh themselves every day, but weekly, because we want to have an idea of what's going on. And if you get to say, if you gain 7 pounds and you're there for at least 2 weeks because there's inflammation, there's different reasons why you may gain some water weight. So we really want to make sure that's fat weight. Then I want you to come back. And we could start on a low dose. It may be once a month. It may be every other week. It may be we're just going to be on it for 2 months. But I don't want you to come back at 20 pounds overweight.
Right.
And there is a list of reasons why somebody may gain the weight back. Maybe you have somebody in the hospital. Maybe you broke a leg. Life will come and punch you in the face, and you're in survival mode. You can't think about, is this nutritious? It's, I got to hit the Chick-fil-A because this is my only opportunity to eat today. So, but
I've been there.
Yeah, same. So I don't want to just leave anybody once you're done by. I want them to be able to come back and get back on the medication if they need to, even if it's just short term. But you are safe staying on the medication. There is a group of people, especially if they struggle with obesity, that they will need to be on it long term. And if you have metabolic issues, then you may need to be on it long term, and that's okay. I mean, people are on all sorts of medications long term.
Yeah.
It's really more to me a function of the way my brain works.
Mm-hmm.
And that food noise for me has always been so loud. It doesn't go away when I eat super clean. It's reduced a little when there's nothing, I'm not taking in anything that makes my brain ping. And I just don't know that it's super realistic for me to be off it. But I'm glad to hear you say that I don't have to be. And so everyone's on their own journey.
Is there a habituation effect to the drug though? I mean, do you have to continually bump it up?
So I feel like on semaglutide, there's less of that, where I've had patients be able to get to a point and they stay there and they're good. On tirzepatide, I feel like people have had to keep going up on it to maintain the results. That is just what I've seen and practice. But most patients, when they get to a maintenance phase, can just stay on whatever they're on. Now, if you have a little bit more weight that you want to lose, and I don't know where you are on dosing, but you may have to tweak it and bump it up a little bit. And then you can, once you get there, you could maybe move it back down and see how you do on that. But yes, and if you have somebody who's got to lose like 100 pounds, they're going to have to keep moving up that ladder, and they're going to need to stay on it long term, more than likely.
Well, I've had to on the tirzepatide, I've had to go up and up and up and up.
Mm-hmm. I see that more with tirzepatide than the semaglutide, but I can tell you, and I don't know your medical history at all, but the patients who do hormone therapy in addition to a GLP-1 have the best outcomes per the studies and per what I have seen and practice. If you add in resistance training to that, it's just out of sight how the benefits.
Okay, that's really exciting to hear you say that if this is an issue for you and a GLP-1 could be helpful for your situation and your weight, the total picture, that doing HRT, a GLP-1, and doing really good resistance training can be the sweet spot for women in this phase of life.
I have had women who do that who come to me afterwards and cry because they're like, I'm me again. I am me again.
That's how I feel.
That is like the greatest emotional paycheck I could ever get, is having somebody just cry and be so thankful because they feel like themselves again.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. That's so rewarding for you, right? Because you're really helping people change their lives, change how they feel about themselves. And it's true. I think somehow this it started with this ridiculous Hollywood Ozempic thing and the way it was discussed in the media is like all of these stars who are obsessed with, we see people like Demi Moore, who looks amazing, and I don't know what she's done and hasn't done, but it started to get conflated with this idea of women who are obsessed with being thin at any cost, and
Mm-hmm.
that they're willing to like throw themselves on the fire of dangerous practices to be thin. And that's really not what this is at all. And that was just a media interpretation of something, perhaps based on an element of Hollywood. Maybe not even. I don't know what those people's situations are, but we're talking about something very different here, which is being in the best health you can be at midlife. And that this may be something that's really indicated for you and really helpful, but you've got to have a true medical practitioner guiding you.
Absolutely.
I guess what's coming up for me, because I'm like in this like weird no man's land of like, I do weight training 3 times a week, and I do run all the time, and I walk all the time. And I can tell that midlife is creeping up on me. And I wonder, I guess that the question as you're listening to you talk about this is like, am I at one point going to have to be optimized? Am I going to have to like do hormone replacement, some sort of help just to, like, I feel like I'm running to stand still is essentially kind of where I'm at. And I'm like, is it the only way you get there eventually is through optimization of hormones and insulin? And can I even do that naturally?
So, first of all, nobody has to do anything that they're not comfortable with. But there are options out there for you. And it does, the older you get, I feel like it's playing whack-a-mole personally. You fix this, then that goes. You fix this, then that goes. But just speaking from the bioidentical hormone replacement therapy scope, that is a two-parter. You have the one part where you have patients take it because they're very symptomatic. They might have intense brain fog. They may have intense depression or even like slight depression. They may have the weight gain, the loss of libido, and so it may hot flashes, and they really want to treat those symptoms because it's interfering with their everyday life. So they will start on some hormone therapy to help with that. Now, not everybody is symptomatic. Most people are at least a little bit, but not everybody is. Some people are terrible. And so the people who aren't symptomatic, but they get started on hormone therapy, those people tend to do it because they want to preserve the last decade of their life. They have seen a family member with frailty, broken hips, dementia, having to have somebody else take care of them, and they want to be vibrant and independent as long as possible. And the studies have shown that if you start hormone therapy within 10 years, really, if you can get it within 5 years of menopause, that you can prevent things like cardiovascular disease, which, by the way, is the leading cause of death of women.
Yeah.
You can prevent dementia and Alzheimer's. You can prevent osteoporosis, which kills women as well. You can also prevent UTIs. I think I could go a whole UTI rabbit hole, but I don't think women realize that once they are in menopause, the rate of UTIs, and that a UTI is not what it was in your 20s.
Can
It's
kill
not
you.
like burning and urgency. It's I'm seeing things, I'm hearing things, I'm hallucinating. It's a whole nother ballgame.
Wow.
So it is to prevent those things. And I would say that bioidentical hormone therapy is natural because it is the same chemical compounds that the hormones your body produced. So
Right.
it's not like birth control, which is kind of like estrogen, kind of like progesterone, but it's not the same thing. And so, and it is so strong that it shuts down your own ovaries, where hormone therapy is just a little bit, it's just like a supplement to ease the symptoms and to help prevent those long-term disease processes. Sorry
so
if I went down a
helpful.
rabbit hole.
Yeah, we have to have you back on to talk all about this because I feel like this could be its own episode. But I guess what I'm hearing from it is like, I feel like this, again, it's coming up for me is like, there's going to be a difference between women who optimize,
Mm-hmm.
and you can make that mean whatever like variation of things you do, and women who don't. Like, there's going to be a difference.
For sure.
Yeah. So obviously menopause is happening. I'm turning 52 this year.
Mhm.
So I'm in it. And if I had known what I've learned since Laura and I started the podcast and started having guests on who are better educated like yourself about the realities of perimenopause and menopause, we're going to Dr. Vonda Wright's conference on menopause. Those things opened my eyes to stuff I was not getting from my doctors at
Mhm.
all. And, you know, I can't do anything about the time I've lost, but I'm trying to get myself on track now. And my personal motive for hormones is really about exactly what you said: bone health, heart health. It's not really so much about how I feel right now or my sex life, and nothing wrong with that either, but it's really about the future and wanting to do whatever I can that's the healthiest for my body. And I just didn't understand how important these hormones are to all of that until
Mhm.
recently.
The misinformation is out of control with
Yeah.
social media. There's so much out there. But Dr. Vonda Wright, she is fabulous. She's actually I see her myself for a hip injury. She is absolutely wonderful.
She's
And
amazing.
if for listeners, you can cut this out if you want, but if you want to follow somebody on social media who's really giving legit information, Dr. Vonda Wright, follow her
Yeah.
on social media because she puts out so much, and she's not a gynecologist. She's an orthopedic. But
Yeah.
and she's passionate about it because she sees these frail women with all these broken bones.
Right.
So I would definitely say follow her and anybody she recommends.
Right.
If
And
you
Dr.
want-
Kelly Casperson too.
Dr.
She's
Kelly
amazing.
Casperson is my favorite. I know
Yep.
you guys spoke with her and I'm so jealous. I would fangirl so hard.
I definitely love Dr. Vonda Wright and the work that she's doing to bring all of these great women to the forefront. It's so important. I think that conference last year was life-changing
Game
for us.
changer. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
great.
So we'd love to have you back on again too, because there's so much more to discuss. This has been so helpful. Before you go, can you give our listeners an idea of how they can find you, where they can follow you, that kind of good stuff?
Sure. I am on Instagram at NP Wrenn, and I think it's just at NP Wrenn. And Wrenn is spelled WRENN. And I try to put out some educational material. I'm not great at putting it out all the time because I am working with providers a lot, and I've made a course recently, a BHRT course, online course for providers, and I'm currently working on an advanced medical weight loss course for providers as well, which GLP-1s is a part of it, but it's not the whole thing because
Great.
certainly they're not for everybody. Not everybody's going to qualify, and I want providers to have all the resources available to help their patients. So
Yeah.
I'm working on coursework a lot, but when I'm not doing that, I do try to put some helpful tips out on Instagram
Yeah.
as well.
I
And-
love your Instagram. And by the way, it is NP_WRENN. And we'll also have this in our show notes too.
Thank you.
And I hope selfishly that you'll start seeing patients again at some point, because
Yes,
it
we
sounds
need
like
it.
and that you have the whole picture. And that's what is missing in so many providers, even these great, well-educated doctors. Like you said, people are not learning this in medical school and nursing school in the past. So we're all trying to get up to speed. And, you know, it's going to be different for everyone, but we're so grateful to you for all of this wonderful information that's going to help our listeners so much. Thank you for being here.
Great. Thank you guys so much for having me. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, we did too, and we hope all of you out there listening got some great insights from our couch today. We will see you next week.
Bye, guys.